Hi, I'm AJ Hogue of EffortlessEnglishClub.com. Let's talk more about English presentations. So, we discussed the fact that fear, nervousness, is the big problem, the big challenge. And we discussed the problem of practicing, that when you practice feeling calm and relaxed at home, it's very different than the actual event, the actual day where you give your presentation. Because when you give your presentation, you have a lot of adrenaline, you're stressed, your heart is pumping, all these things are happening. So how can you handle this fear and how can you prepare for it? Well, one key thing is to make your practice closer to the real event. In other words, try to get that adrenaline, that excitement, that body reaction happening when you practice at home. No, you're probably not going to feel afraid when you're practicing at home, but you can get your heart beating faster. You can make yourself breathe more heavily. You can get some adrenaline going. Right? That fight or flight, right? That kind of fear or fighting reaction in your body. So how do you do that? Well, the thing I like to do is I just get really excited. I'll put on some music, loud rock and roll music, and I'll jump around, and I'll get myself really excited. I might do some exercises like jumping jacks. I'll just jump up and down, getting myself really excited. So my heart starts pumping, and I'm breathing more heavily. And I'm getting that adrenaline going, right? Because I'm listening to this loud music, getting myself really excited, getting that adrenaline going in my body. And then, when I have the adrenaline going, I'm really excited, my heart's beating faster, then I'll stop and I'll suddenly just start to practice my presentation. And now when I'm practicing my presentation, I'm doing it when my body's very excited, my mind is very excited. It's closer to the feeling I will have when I actually speak to a group. And so I do this, of course, not just one time, but many, many times. Every day I'll do this to prepare for my presentation, getting really excited, getting as excited as possible, as much adrenaline in my body. So I play really loud, hard rock and roll music. I jump around. I imagine a big crowd screaming and going crazy. I get as much adrenaline in my body as I can. Then I practice my presentation or my speech. And step by step, day by day, I get used to giving a presentation while I'm feeling very, very, very excited, while my body is, in this very excited state. And it's very close to how I will feel before I give my presentation. And another good thing I'm doing is I'm training my body and my mind, yes, to be excited, but in a positive way. So instead of a negative way of feeling fear when I have my heart beating and I'm breathing heavier, instead of feeling fear, I'm training myself each day to feel excitement, to feel powerful. You've got to do this again and again, especially if you're kind of new to presentations and you're really afraid a lot. Well, then you need to practice like this constantly, several times a day, probably for several weeks or even a few months. As you do this, you train yourself to handle the adrenaline, so you can still think while you have all this adrenaline in your body. While your heart's pumping and you're breathing heavy and your brain is doing all these crazy things, you can still function and think and perform well. You have to train this, you have to practice it daily for a while. Now, I have trained this so much that now I don't feel nervous, I don't feel afraid anymore, even when I speak to really big groups. In fact, when I speak to a big group, I'm even more excited. I've trained myself to be excited. Now I like that feeling. I like that adrenaline because it makes me a more powerful speaker. This is a big key to training yourself to be a better public speaker, a better presenter, learning how to practice the adrenaline, the nervousness, changing how one can excite people. It doesn't have a lot AJ Hogue of EffortlessEnglishClub.com.